Here we go. Welcome for the first ever, the Habs Hump Day with the hockey coach Frenchy, directly for the jungle and tight end on the great Wednesday night, September 3rd, 2025. Hopefully, an amazing, great start of the week. We know we're short because the Labor Day and ready to talk about the Montreal Canadiens and everything about the NHL. We have a great show tonight, and every Wednesday night, we're going to have notre ami Marko Larabie would be with us every Wednesday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And let's jump in right there because tonight we have a co-host going to join Marco and myself directly from Montreal area. He is back with us. It's been a long time, I believe. And Mr. Frank is in the house tonight.
Yes, sir.
Hey, good evening.
Welcome, Frank. Hey, well, listen, Coach, really excited. This is our first ever Habs Hump Day. Really excited about the new concept show. And, just to give an idea, so Hump Day is on Wednesday. So we thought it's going to be a cool way for us to kind of mark the midweek. And, really, we know that Montreal plays a lot on Tuesdays. So Wednesday is, I think, a good midweek point where we'll be able to kind of, work through the week with you, that midweek kind of like blues that we have, so good to get over the hump with you guys every Wednesday here moving forward, and looking forward to a good season. Tonight, Coach, we have kind of like a special episode that we put together, similar to what we did last year with Entertap. And by the way, I see Entertap's in the chat. Hello, my friend. Can't wait to have you back on the show soon. So last year, Coach, we did a pretty good deep dive on kind of what we could expect for Montreal heading into the season. And I just want to kind of give everybody an overview of kind of what the exercise is, right? So, Coach, why don't we go ahead? We'll say hi to some people, and then I'll introduce the concept of what we're going to be doing.
You can continue. It's not a big deal. I have a time to do it. I think so. Let's finish what you want to explain, and there we go.
Okay, sure. All right. So tonight, guys, it's not really it's predictions, but not in the way that you think, right? So we're not trying to predict exactly what will happen because nobody can see the future. But what we're going to try to do is try to predict what needs to happen if Montreal is going to make the playoffs. So we always know there could be injuries. You never really know kind of how things are going to work out, but you can kind of predict. Okay, for example, how many goals is Montreal going to need to score this year to be competitive? How many goals against will they need to prevent or allow in order for them to be competitive? What is their power play should be? So it's not really to say, hey, we're predicting that Cole Caulfield is going to score 42 goals this year. Nobody knows exactly how many goals Cole Caulfield is going to score. But what we can try to predict is, hey, well, the whole first line, they need X amount of goals so that the Montreal Canadiens can get X amount of goals so that they'll be competitive. So I hope everybody kind of understands that concept. It's not necessarily about predicting exactly what's going to happen, but what needs to happen if we want Montreal to be competitive and to make the playoffs. Hope that makes sense. Frank, that makes sense, right? Not crazy?
Perfect sense. It's all clear to me.
Perfect.
Me is the same thing, Marco. I understand.
I hope you understand because it's your show. So, by the way, Frank, I don't know if you knew this, but Coach has moved since the last time that you were with us. So now Coach literally lives in the jungles of Thailand. He's no longer eating bugs, at the night market. Now he's just surrounded by bugs and reptiles and other beasts of the jungle. But you can never tell, right? Look how professional and polished his studio looks. You can't even really see that there's a giant like bull, just grazing right behind him. So there you go.
No cheese anymore.
Yeah, no cheese.
No cheese you can anymore. Maybe just focus on the. Every time I finish the show, I go out, and when I go out, you just stretch. You just get some hair. They have like all the buffalo beside me, like 5 feet from me, and they look at me like, really? But very interesting. Anyhow, we have a headline to start. We have only one headline, Marco, tonight because we have a full show. So I will going to go with your headline tonight. We got, and then Frank can comment on your headline tonight, and it's all about this?
Yeah, well, I thought I'd stay with the theme, right? So Kirby, Dach, and Alex Newhook, right? So are they going to get over that hump? And I think these are still two, more things change, more they stay the same, right? Like two of the biggest question marks, going into this season are going to be, okay, so who's going to play second line center? And I think we're mostly focused on Kirby, Dach, but you can put Alex Newhook in that same boat as well, too, right? So there's a couple of ways to define what the hump is. So we know that for Dach, it's health, like staying healthy is part of that hump, getting over the hump, and being more consistent, being a little bit more intense, and his conditioning and things like that. With Alex Newhook, like he did have some health concerns, like he has missed some games, but for him, I think it's confidence, right? Like getting over that hump. How many he's, I think we're all calling him the nouveau chevreuil, like the new Russ Courtnall or Mondu, the guy that's forgets the puck, but skates really fast and misses a lot of breakaways and stuff like that. So I think it's going to be really important for the season, Frank. It seems like deja vu all over again, right? Last year at this time, we were talking about how, Kirby, Dach is the kind of like missing ingredient and the biggest kind of question mark going into it. So, curious about your thoughts, like, how critical do you think, figuring out what they have here with Kirby, Dach, and Newhook is to unlock kind of what's going to happen moving forward here?
Yeah, I'm a big Kirby Dach respecter and defender. I think he really has the potential to be the guy Montreal thought they were getting when they traded for him. The skill set, the size is tantalizing. But yeah, the health has been the major concern, as you've mentioned. So it's really hard to say, like, oh, yeah, he's going to come in and do 70 points this year. I think that's far fetched. Even if they put him in a position to succeed, say at the center of a second line right from the get go with, I don't know, a Patrick Laine and a Ivan Demidov, like obviously these are players that can really get you going offensively. But I don't know that this is exactly how things will play out. There are still, I believe, some concerns about his health at this stage of the offseason. I think there are some question marks still. So I think it's really nearly impossible to predict what we're going to get from Kirby.
Super chat.
We have a super chat. Frank, you can finish with your conversation.
Yeah, well, thanks for the super chat help there, Enortap. Ultimately, I think the question mark really is health, and it's impossible to tell right now. I think we have to have tempered expectations this year. So, even to propose something like 50 points, I think would be a reach at this point. We would have to stay very, very mindful of that. And for Newhook, I do have a little bit more optimism. I think he finished with some 30 points last year. Nothing to write home about, right? I don't have the stat lines in front of me, but I don't know that we would have a major bearing on last season's success for Newhook last year. So I think the only way is up in his case. He's still relatively young, right? He's 24, I would say, probably in that range. So it's not like he's a 30-year-old guy. And yeah, you mentioned Russ Courtnall, but who I keep seeing when I see him just get all these chances and not put it in? It reminds me a little bit of Artturi Lehkonen, who had a very similar sort of lots of chances, could never bury. He looked like a guy who could really have 30-goal seasons in Montreal if he only put, half of the chances that he got. If there was just a little bit more luck, just a little bit more of that. So I haven't thrown in the towel in the case of Alex Newhook. I don't believe he's going to be a 70 points season player, but I think there's a step between 30 and 70 that he could be taking, especially if he has some second line duties. As we stand, the only left-handed centerman for the Montreal Canadiens is Veleno. So Joe Veleno, right? He's the only left-handed centerman. So they might have to push Newhook to a higher position because of some matchups, because Kirby Dach might not be fully ready to be a second line center. So, we've seen this story before where Newhook was given ample chances and nothing really happened. But at still age 24, I think it's too early to write it off. So I would be cautiously optimistic about Newhook's taking a little bit of a step here this year.
I think you're kind of onto something. I like the parallel with Lehkonen. If Montreal could have him develop into that profile of player where he's a specialist, maybe more so than a top six guy, but a specialist that, I think a lot of us have speculated that maybe Newhook, now that, they've lost Armia, they're going to need somebody to jump into that regular rotation on the PK, similar to Josh Anderson last year. Is Newhook is he this year's Josh Anderson, in the sense where they give him a very specific role on the PK? He kind of focuses on that, isn't so stressed out about the production, and provides really, really good value there, because the speed that he has. And St. Louis talked about this so much, right? Is that the transition year for him last year, St. Louis was on him about using his speed, not only just to create offense, but to pressure defensively, right? So I think it's an interesting comparable with Lehkonen, right? Like, if he can really kind of become that defensive specialist, but with a little bit of grit, forechecking, and really smart PK, then I think he'll, still be a really important piece. So I think that's the headline.
So in that case, then perhaps the parallel is Paul Byron. A very similar, fast guy who could not bury a goal to save his life in Calgary, got put down waivers, and then had a very successful career as a role player in Montreal. So maybe there's a path there. Obviously, you could draw any parallels you want with any players you want. That doesn't mean it's going to happen, but there might be something there to what you just said about being more of a role player. And you're right, the PK, I think he's fully penciled in as the PK guy this year.
Well said, both of you. Appreciate a lot. We have a super chat, Mr. Marko, and I have something special for you tonight.
All right, let's see it.
That will be the first premiere of the Hockey Nation. I'm going to dance. I'm going to dance again, but we have something joint me tonight. Thank you. Hey, Mr. Enartap scored the first goal tonight at this special ad Hump, and date with the Hockey Nation, assisted by PFW
Super
and
chat.
Mr. Larry Lavallée. But we have another goal back-to-back, Mr. Marko, so we have to do it again. So I don't know how I can do that. Honestly, I never do that back-to-back, but we'll see if we can do this very quickly. Back from here, go back over there. There we go. Thank you, Pizza. Here we go. Thanks so much for all the special we got. The second goal of the night is scored by Mr. Pizza. Assisted by Billy and Guy on that line on the night. Thanks so much for both of you. Have a goal. And our tap scored the first goal. And people asking me who is on the inside of mascot. We cannot tell you right now. We're going to let you know a little bit later who is inside of this mascot. But this is a new friend we got during the upcoming season. No, we're going to go NHL. We don't have a lot of news, but I think we're going to get there. Then I'm going to do the subject of the night, the Montreal Canadiens. News in NHL. And the reason I bring this to you guys, because this was happening yesterday. I want to have you, what do you think about the GF, a new member of the Hockey Nation Live Show? Thanks so much, GF. On that one. And we're going to start with the NHL, NHLPA lock and the CBA transition. So let's start with Frank. I'm sure you know a little bit what's happening, everything. How are you feeling about that? And let us know what you feel.
Coach, I'll be perfectly transparent. I feel like a bear who is awoken from his deep, long slumber from the winter. So there are some things that I haven't looked into or picked up as I slowly drag myself out into hockey season after a nice summer. So you might have to fill me in on some of those things.
Marko, you're going to start.
All right. Well, so we knew that after the NHL and the NHLPA extended their agreement a bit early, which is great news. Labor peace in the NHL for many years to come. So there's going to be some changes, right? What they just are announcing is kind of the pace or the cadence in which they're going to be rolling out some of these new things. Like, for example, when is this new LITR rule going to kick in? Like, when does the new LITR, like during the playoffs, and when are 8-year contracts going to stop and things like that, right? So just a little bit more information about when things are going to be kicking in. I don't have the list in front of me. I didn't memorize them. I don't know if you have a list, Coach. I think you shared them last night on the show. But we're going to see certain things start to kick in this season, but not a lot. Most of them are going to be kicking in after after the draft next year and stuff like that. So I think that's what you're alluding to, right, Coach?
Yeah, so it's about also for the playoff. I think this is very important, huge situation. You have also the players you cannot send at Laval. At least you let them play one game minimum.
Paper transactions. Yeah, the paper transactions. So like before, you could just send a player down, but now they actually have to show up in the AHL and report there and stuff like that. So there's a couple of things, and I think the salary retention stuff as well is going to kick in only next year, or is it this year, Coach, that it's kicking in, where you have to almost plan in advance that you're going to be retaining salary in a trade? Like, I think that's kicking in this year or next year.
Which one?
The salary retention one, for trades, is that kicking in this year or next year?
At the trade deadline, so this year. So they have a fun thing happening. We have to be a little bit careful because you have the trade deadline right now, the trade deadline, and then you have the UFA, and then you have the September. So we have 3 different things you have to do. It's a little bit complicated if you don't follow everything, but at the end of the day, for me, it creates one thing. I think we won't have less trade at the trade deadline. Secondly, because you cannot retaining anymore the contract more at one time. So you don't have the 3 parties for that. So the salary cap.
Well, you can. Well, Coach, just to be clear, you can, but there's a certain amount of time that has to go by. So it takes, like, I forget the amount of days, but it's like 90 days. Like, you have to almost plan it in advance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you have I think it's one on. It's not 90 days. Yeah, it's another number. And when you get at the trade deadline, you cannot do it. It's too late.
Yeah.
So that's its fun right there. So at the trade deadline, they cannot do it. So they can get in November if they want to do it, or December. But when you hit that part, yeah, you're right about this. And the cap at the playoff, that would be changed. So look, there's something could happen, and we'll see what it could change.
There's a lot of these. Like, a lot of these rule changes, I think we all like. I like the idea of having an LITR, or like having an actual salary cap during the playoffs, but I'm not sure anybody was asking for less trades in the NHL. I don't understand why the double retention thing was an issue. Like, I don't know, maybe it was owners that weren't liking that, with as a tool or whatever, but as fans, that want to see more action in the NHL and see more trades, I don't understand that one. That's the one, I guess, guardrail that they put up that I just don't understand what they're trying to fix with that. But I don't know.
All right, we'll see what's happening there. The next one about the Pavelski, Gomez, Parise among 5 elected to USA Hockey Hall of Fame. Honestly, you say hockey run that Hall of Fame like a little bit in Canada. And Joe Pavelski, great career with the San Jose Sharks. Best friend is Scott Gomez. Didn't have a great year with Montreal. They have a couple of great years with the Devils and the Rangers. And then Zach Parise, not Jean-Paul. Jean-Paul is already there. So, Zach Parise with the Minnesota, also with the Devils, have a great career. NHL, they were going to recognize in Hall of Fame of the them. Very quickly, we have 2. The Senator, the Hurricane, have unveiled a new alternate jersey for the upcoming season. Nothing big there. This one, Kaprizov deal very soon. This is going to be, I'll not be surprised, happen very soon, this week or next week about Kaprizov. So my question to you quickly, 30 seconds, 1 minute. How much money he get, Marco?
Ooh, well, what we're hearing is that it's likely it's not going to be crazy if he gets over 15. You know, like it could be as high as $15 million, coach. Like you know, the Minnesota they don't have a lot of superstars there, and I think that he knows that, you know, he has a lot of leverage in this negotiation and how badly that they want him. So don't be surprised if it's over 15 million. You know, I don't think it's certainly not going to be lower than 14 million. So yeah, so I and guys, it's going to take a while for, I think, all of us to get past the sticker shock of some of these new AAVs that we're going to see, with the salary cap going over like 110, 113 million over the next couple of years. So we're all going to have to kind of recalibrate our expectations when it comes to these. So I don't know, Frank, what do you think? Would you be shocked if it was over 15 mil?
No, I think you're bang on. They are somewhat depleted, except from Boldy and uh, William.
Erickson?
Like they really don't
Yeah.
have any. Yeah, we don't have a lot of star power. Erickson Necker, right? Not a lot of star power there. But also, this is a guy who finishes in top five in the league in the recent years, having Ryan Hartman as a centerman. So this is everything you need to know about how much he's the driver of this line.
Yeah.
Be interesting what he's going to get. Uh, I don't know, 15 will be a high number, but hopefully more at 12, 13 for upcoming. Last one, Quebec
Okay,
Nordic hosts the 2029 the World Junior Championship. Very, very good for the Quebec, honestly. They have also the Feminine Hockey in 2027 Championship. 12 will be part of that. So Quebec hosts the 2029 World Junior Championship. And Canada, I believe, is going to be in 2 years. Next year is going to be Minnesota, if I can recall it. Anyhow, that's it. That's all we got tonight on this NHL news. And let's go back for the Montreal Canadiens, if you don't mind. We have a couple of things before we go on the prediction. Roger back in the house. Frank is out. Darrell, GF, many of those guys. Don't forget, please click on the like, because we have a lot of things to talk about tonight. We're going to skip the welcome one by one. But you understand, I know that, and I know we're going to do the best we can to bring you everything. So the first news of the night, Marco, if I can start it, is with David Reinbacher and HLP rookie showcase went up, and with other rookies in NHL. And you have a great 2 days. Full recovery at 100%. How you feeling about that? That said, is it a chance to see David Reinbacher at the beginning of the season with the Montreal Canadiens?
Well, I think it's, again, I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Like, maybe some people might have raised their eyebrow that it wasn't Demidov going to this, showcase, since a lot of people are penciling him in, or even penning him in with ink for a Calder contention, right? So I think it's a great move by Montreal to kind of send him off, get some exposure, get some confidence, kind of mingle with some of these other young prospects. I think it was a good move, good experience for him. Glad to hear that, that he's fully recovered. I think they really handled him really carefully at the end of last year. They did the load management, leading him into the playoffs, and then he had a really good playoff run with Laval. So that's really good to hear. In terms of him making the team, I've been pretty vocal about it, even to last year, Coach. Like, if you go back and watch us heading into the camp last year, I was saying, well, don't be surprised if he makes the team last year if he doesn't get injured, right? Because the reason I keep saying this is that the way that Reinbacher plays is just a very, very dependable, smart game, right? And guess what? Coaches, and I'll kind of quote, I think this was I think this is something that we used to hear a lot, but like, if you play a 3 of hearts, you want to know, this is a Dominic Ducharme line. If you play a 3 of hearts, you want to know that you have a 3 of hearts. And if you're going to play a jack of clubs, you want to know it's a jack of clubs when you put it on the ice. So I think any coach wants to have dependable players. So if Reinbacher goes into training camp and just focuses on doing his thing and not being overly flashy, just doing the small things, playing his game, I wouldn't be shocked. It's going to be tricky for them though, right? Because then, what do you like? You're going to have to make a pretty interesting decision there with either Jacky or Struble in terms of setting them down. And then you have the Matheson question, right? But listen, like there's no question that having that other right hand shot on D, somebody that they pick 5th overall, coach. Like Montreal has a history of wanting to develop their top prospects in Montreal. Just ask Yuri Slavkovsky how that went. So it's not a slam dunk, but if I'm his agent, if I'm Reinbacher's agent, I'm giving him the advice like, listen, just go in there, play a simple game, get the trust from the coach that you can go out there, be dependable, don't need to be flashy. You're not Lane Hudson. You don't need to kind of do any of that stuff. Just be dependable. So I think would be interesting. Frank, how do you kind of see this? Like any shot that you see Reinbacher getting onto the starting lineup at the beginning of the season?
I think it's going to be hard because there are so many bodies right now. Now it moves very quickly in hockey, and a lot of it might hinge on the Carey Price situation. That's a whole other can of worm that I'm not going to open here. But salary wise, they're going to need to make some movements. They're currently over the cap at I think 6 million or close to it. And then the number of contracts and all of that plays into all these things. So it's going to be very tricky because right now they have, I think, 8 NHL capable defensemen in front of Reinbacher. So it's going to be tricky. I do believe there are, I would hope there are some concerns about having Matheson or Hudson playing on the right side. Matheson, because we've seen it worked for a while, but on the longer exposure, it did not work with him and Hudson, Matheson being on the right side. And then if you're, from a management standpoint and a development standpoint, I don't think it's great to have your Calder recipient playing on his offside just because. So I think you want to give him the best shot at succeeding. So I do believe Reinbacher would be a perfect fit as a partner for Hudson. So it really hinges on what they do with Matheson and whether or not Carey Price's contract is moved to free some of that cash as well.
And just a note, like coach, before you jump in, like there are reports that Hudson this summer has been training playing on the right, like all summer, right? Like he was working with his dad, taking pucks on the wrong side and things like that. Because we know, like, just ask Caden Gooley, right? Like that split second where you're on your wrong side pivoting, you can get yourself very vulnerable. So I don't think they have any thoughts of having Matheson on the right side. It would be Hudson that would have to play on the right side. So, I don't know. It's hard to say, but, we do know that he's been training to do that most of the summer. I still don't love it, but, he'll be more prepared than he was last season if that's what they do.
Yeah. And I'll add to Coach, if it's okay, I'll add, he hasn't played a ton of hockey. Like, I think he will need a bit more seasoning and conditioning in Laval. Maybe not the full year. And we know as well, like, Mayu's gone, so he's going to be first call up on the right side if ever there's an injury, and God knows these happen. So it's not a bad thing to have a very, very solid prospect ready to slot in if you have an injury, but letting him, acclimate and again, like, show his stuff in a lower level, make sure his knee is fully recovered.
I said both of you. I think one specific thing I want just to add on that great conversation in the chat, by the way, between people. A lot of great comments. I could be wrong here, but Martin Saint-Louis love Mike Madison. And to put Mike Madison on the third pairing, it will pass, but not much. And I think, for Frank said, where Reinbacher need more time to play more hockey and to start in Laval, there will be more benefit for David Reinbacher. at start in Montreal, and that would give a chance at that moment to get Mike Menison on the second pairing, Lane Hudson on the right side, and to have Carrier, Strouble, or Jekai on the third pairing. Just for me, it's just a movement of the core, the defensemen they have. That said, whatsoever Reinbacher have a great camp, whatsoever Engstrom have a great camp, I think overall the die is already on the table, Marco. It will not change too much at the beginning of the season because if they put Mike Menison on the third pairing, that would be good. That would be okay. But I think they would prefer to have Mike Menison on the top at the beginning of the season. After that,
But the
everything
way,
could change.
so,
But at the
but so
beginning,
let's play.
I can see that scenario more, just because for Martin Saint Louis want to play with Mike Menison more minutes.
So listen, I think it's more likely that he doesn't, right? But I think, like I said, like you can never underestimate a coach like really falling in love with somebody who's dependable and he trusts on the ice. So if Reinbacher goes out and does that and proves that he's trustworthy, now, coach, let's say he was there, then wouldn't you argue like this is if let's say Reinbacher did make the team, the pairings for me would be goalie with Dobson, and then your second pair, okay, and people might freak out when I say this, would be Matheson and Carrier for now. And then your third pair would be Hudson and Reinbacher. Again, it's not to say that Hudson and Reinbacher would only be playing 12 minutes. They might get 18 minutes. And, it's really kind of like, and again, during the game, you could change things up too, right? Like you can switch things up depending on game situations and all that. So to me, you're right. Like St. Louis definitely has a lot of respect for Mike Matheson. So does Kent Hughes. Like they go way back. But again, don't underestimate the fact that there's a history there where Montreal likes to develop their top prospects in Montreal. But listen, the odds are that he is going to start in Laval. I don't buy into the fact that he needs that much more seasoning in Laval, to be honest. Like I think playing 14, 15, 16 minutes in the NHL is a great experience for him at this stage, but we'll have to see how it works out. That's why we have training camp.
We're going to see what happening about that. Great comments, Peter A2 about that too. Welcome back, James and GF and Triple W. Hughes, happy about salary cap change for the upcoming season, and said does not need to trade Carey Price. We just talked about salary cap, but my graphic, my comments my statement was already there, so I did not want to delete it. Frank, we didn't see you since July, and since that, Carey Price have a lot of this conversation since that the last time we saw you, and I would like to have a little bit more your opinion. It's going to be great. They're going to be trade, and the effect after that, Marco. What if he stay with the team or not? If you don't mind, Marco.
Yeah, I think the notion that he has to trade Carey Price is if he wants to keep his team as is. So if you're a crafty GM, you look at the problem, and there's two ways you could go about this. You could either trade Carey Price and be cap compliant and have some liberties with your cap throughout the year, not be cap crunched the whole season. Or, and this is probably what this means when you read between the line, when he says he doesn't need to trade Price, I think probably what this means is maybe he has a backup plan, which involves trading a player that has a $5 or $6 million cap, that maybe there's something in the works. I cannot obviously predict what this might be. We just talked about how maybe Matheson is sitting in the weird chair. He has roughly a $5 million cap hit. Maybe this is what he hints at as a possible solution. I don't know. But I think the best course of action would be to trade Carey Price if you don't have to pay a ridiculous price to do so. But if you don't find a suitable trade for you, there are some ways around it. But it weakens your team in the short term.
Yeah. So I listen. I think Eric Engels had that great interview with Kent Hughes, which kind of resparked the discussion. Now, guys, like, what do you think Kent Hughes is going to say? He's going to say, "Yeah, oh my God, I am desperate to trade Carey Price. Like, I'm hoping I can. Like, I hope a team is going to help me." Well, no, he's he's not an idiot, right? He's going to be coy and he's going to kind of play his cards in a smart way. And he's like, "No, we don't need to trade Carey Price." Like, and it's true, they don't they don't technically need to. Like, they could just put him on LITR at the beginning of the season. But we know how that works, like, without getting all nerdy about it. Like, you just don't accrue the same kind of savings on the cap. And so it's not advantageous to do it that way. So I think right now that, teams see the position that Montreal's in, and they're asking, for more than Montreal wants to give up. Right. So we don't know, but at the bottom line, I wouldn't really say just because he said in an interview that he doesn't need to do it, that he's not going to do it. Like, I think it's just, it's just PR, just, kind of talking to the marketplace and not giving away how desperate he is to do it. And I don't think they are desperate, but I think for sure it puts them in a much better position if they can. But again, they're not going to have to, waive like an important player or something like that if they do it that way. So listen, we'll see how it goes. You need to tango for sure. But again, I don't read too much into what Kent Hughes said in the interview with Eric Engels, because I wouldn't expect him to say anything different, to be honest.
Great comment about that. We'll see what happening for sure. Carey Price, look, it's the easy way for the people to understand, guys. It's a Carey Price on the long-term injury reserve before the season start. It tie up the hands of Kent Hughes. That's pretty much it. And if he is trade before that, I'll open up more advantage for Kent Hughes to make some move at some point for the beginning season. In the past, they could play a bit, send a player in Laval, and then call him back and then put Carey Price. This year, they cannot do it. At least the player need to play one game minimum in Laval. So, again, like Marko said, they never go to tell us, like, I have two proposals in my hands right
now. Yeah, like, they're not going to be begging other GMs in public to help them, right? Like, like when you go to another GM with your hand out, they're giving you more of like a weight more than a lift, right? Like they're going to try to take advantage of you. So Kent Hughes knows exactly how that works.
Today I had some kind of visit. David Savard was on the ice with Mike Bureau and Adam Nicolas. Mike Bureau was do some kind of practice for the face-off. Suzuki, Dach, Sakoski, Bolduc, Newhook, Veleno, and Kapanen. One piece is missing is Demidov. So all of you thinking Demidov will be a center this year or he should be center, it's not going to happen. This is right there. They tell you exactly about that, and that's okay for me. But it's going to be very interesting. I'm happy for one thing for me, Marko and Frank. They tried to bring more players on the practice of the Mac Bureau. And one reason, in my opinion, how many times in the game, and we never make that stat, but how many times a linesman remove a center?
Yeah, for sure. It's you can see the like, what's interesting. People might question, well, why Slafkovsky on here? Well, Slafkovsky is the only left-hand shot on the first line. So if Suzuki gets kicked out and you need somebody to take a face-off on that side, then it's smart to have Slafkovsky with a little bit of practice there. We don't see Jake Evans on here, but obviously he's going to be taking face-offs. Maybe he just wasn't available. But no, I think it's good. Ultimately, we'll see. Kind of, there's definitely some buzz around Bolduc, maybe. Kind of maybe being a guy, you were talking about Newhook, being the left shot option, Frank, earlier. When later on, when we look at my lines, I actually have Bolduc playing with Dach and, with Demidov. So that would be, a good option if Dach gets kicked out, or if they have, if Dach, maybe they just end up playing Bolduc at center by default, or they go back and forth. I think it's smart to have Bolduc there. We know Newhook can take faceoffs. He's, the proficiency is not there. But ultimately, I'm just glad that they're working on it, Coach, because we know it's a huge issue. We we would really need one left shot center that can be close to 50%. Just one, like they don't all need to be that, but just one guy that, that can do kind of what Dvorak did last year, maybe not at the same level, because Dvorak was really, really good at taking those draws. But I think it's good. Like, I hope they continue to do it. Let's continue to practice because God knows they need it. So.
Yeah,
All
and
right, I'm going
sometimes
to move on,
the
Frank, if you don't mind, if it's okay with
that's
you.
fine.
For that, I try to pick up everything. No retreat in Mont Tremblant for this year. And we talk about this week, like Martin Sou is going to make some change for the camp, everything, and that's maybe one reason here. And that we saw Dach, Demidov, Line practicing today on the ice in Brassard. 99% guys are there at the facility on the Montreal Canadiens. At the point now, they have to use both eyes because all the Laval Rocket are here. I don't know who said that on the social media or on me and Marco, and we watch everything and listening the radio. But I think someone said this is the first time, or it's really rare, you see, Frank, so many players at the Montreal Canadiens at the beginning of September are practicing, and they are in Brassard almost every day. How you feel about that? What this give you for the upcoming season? That kind of reaction for the players.
Yeah, I think they're building something great, eh? I think it's just a testament of the culture that they're building. The fact that guys want to stick around, want to hit the ice early. We see young guys coming in like Leighton Hudson, who's like always on the ice. I think it instills something in others. It's a form of leadership, right? Nick Suzuki spent most of his summer in Montreal for, I believe, the first time. Like he's also big part of that buy-in from the rest of the team. So it's a young team. If the cards are played right with the contracts that are, with the young guys that are on long-term contracts, this is a core that could be together for a very long time. So the fact that they're really gelling at this stage of their careers, which is very early, is very, very promising in my opinion.
Awesome about that. Marco, go to move the next one if you don't mind. A new look on the eyes. Now we have a new face, a new second center. We have a new look. And the look is this way, guys. This is going to be the new look of the Montreal Canadiens face-off for the upcoming 3D dimension. They talk about this a little bit on the social media, but really nice to see that kind of logo. And I'm sure they're going to have other copycat in the NHL to use that logo. Well, that exactly the logo, but the same kind of format of the logo. So it will be interesting what could have been. We talked about Carey Price a couple of minutes ago, so I'm not going to go that one over there. And then the last one, guys, about this. Someone today on the radio, on the French radio, said you cannot start the season with that line of the center. And he was talking about Suzuki, Evan Veleno, and Dach. Are you agree or disagree, Frank?
Well, there's not much of a choice, but I'll say this: like ultimately, the only change from last year is you've replaced Dvorak by Veleno. So it is a downgrade. As much as I did not enjoy Christian Dvorak's tenure in Montreal, I'll have to give it to him. He's probably a better player than Joe Veleno. But there's a big improvement on the wings. And this is what Jeff Gorton has said, that, maybe there won't be able to fix the center line right off the bat for this year, but they're looking at lines as the response. And there's been major upgrades on the wings, I think, with the arrival of Ivan Demidov and Bolduc. I think that's going to help a lot. So, I'm not a fan of the center line, but considering this team made the playoffs last year, and I think they're set up for a better season this year, even with a weaker center line, I think they could, all in all, still find ways to get into the playoffs and maybe add more of a role specialist guy, a third line, like a legitimate third line center, at some point during the season. And the other thing we cannot discount is maybe Kirby Dach is the solution. It's too early to tell, and I wouldn't put all my money in that basket. But this is still, in my opinion, a possibility. And I will also add, there's also a possibility that somewhere down the road, the oh, sorry guys, I completely lost my train of thought there. I was going to say there was another point that I wanted to make.
Myself said, dude, I did something wrong.
No, I wasn't.
I look at Marko if he was moving or not.
It'll come back to me. I was going to say, so maybe there's also the possibility that maybe someone like a Kapanen or a Beck comes in and has an immediate impact. I don't think they're top 6 guys. I don't think they're number 2 centermen, but maybe they could really solidify perhaps the center line while not being big points producer per se.
So I don't know, Coach. Like that's a pretty bold statement to make. Like you can't start the like. Listen, like you're gonna do what you have to do, right? Like you're gonna start with the options that you have, and you're not gonna make a panic move just to kind of to please some guys on the radio or whatever. But as we'll see when we're breaking down the lines here and kind of what production we think they'll need to get in order to get to the goals for that they're going to need. I don't think the focus necessarily, now that I think of it and I've really broken it down, I don't think it's that much of a huge deal if Kirby Dach gets you 15 goals and 40, 45 points. Like, your second line center can be a 45, 50 point guy. Because when you have potentially like a Demidov there, that's going to be really driving the line, then really what you're looking for is Montreal is going to have depth across all their 4 lines. So for me, and again, it's like a broken record. The only concern I have is faceoffs on the left side for penalty kill and all that. So we'll have to see how Veleno does. Like, we'll give him a shot. Like there are certain points where he's in the high 40s as a faceoff man, so he's going to have an opportunity to win that role. And if he can't do it, unfortunately, some of the options that you're referring to there, Frank, like Beck and Kapanen, they're also right-hand shots as well. So that's kind of the issue. Hage is a right-hand shot. So at some point they're going to need to move off some of these guys. And, it's not just, it's not a frivolous thing here where it would be nice to have, like you need left-hand shot and right-hand shots for face-offs. Like it's such a critical part of the game, guys. From if you're a coach, it's so important to have those assets. So I think he can start the season that way. You have to give them a chance, and a lot of opportunity for Veleno to prove that he can, in the short term, middle term, fill that role. So we'll have to see how he does.
Yeah, great comments, all of you, for the Montreal Canadiens. Now, we're going to go the Montreal Canadiens prediction. And before we start, maybe Marko to explain a little bit quicker in 1 minute the purpose of the exercise tonight and what we try to accomplish, and go from there.
Sure. So again, guys, so like I said off the top, in case you weren't here, this is not us trying to predict exactly what will happen. It's impossible for us to predict that. What we're trying to kind of put together is what do we think needs to happen in order for Montreal to be competitive and hopefully make the playoffs again, right? So we can never predict exactly how many points or how many goals or everything that's going to happen. But it's a little bit of an analysis of looking, okay, so teams that made the playoffs last year, I'll just use one example, goals against. What is the average goals against for teams that were fighting for that playoff spot? So if assuming it's like 240 goals, Montreal needs to be around that in order to be competitive, right? And then same thing with a whole bunch of other things. So we're just going to double click on some really important things and what this will be cool, Coach, and you can talk about this is like for Habs fans, if you want to follow how they're doing in the beginning of the season, it's not just about wins and losses. You can follow these categories to see, okay, are they doing well? Like last year, for example, we talked about it was going to be important to have a much better record in the division. So even though they were losing, we could see that they were winning against the division. So that was kind of like a cool statistic that we could check, right? So that's what this show is about, guys. Not trying to predict the future, but trying to analyze at what level they need to be at certain things in order to be competitive. So I hope that makes sense.
For me, it makes sense, hopefully for everybody. And we're going to stop right there and see what we have for everybody. So last year, guys, if you remember, we did this exercise also within our tap. And we predict that way. 31 goals for Cole Caulfield, 37. 65 points, 70. Suzuki, 32 goals, 30. 78.89. Sakaski, we predict 23 goals, it was 18. And he predicts 60 points, it was 51. That was a bit off, but, it could be wrong. It could be better. But I think we're still happening. Now, what we did tonight, guys, we have this first line. And by the way, tonight, the line are just suggestions. So they are not said that were happening, but to make the exercise, we need to put 12 forward. So we did that way. And we're going to get the Caulfield, the number, the goal, and number, the point. And both of them, if people in the chat, are going to tell us if it's right or wrong for this one. So the first for Caulfield is 35 goals and 72 points for Caulfield. So, Marko, you're going to start first for the first time, and then Frank.
Yeah, so again, looking at this first line coach overall, like I think we need about 88 goals from this first line. So I think, we had this debate, or I saw that you had this as a over or under for Caulfield. I think this is a conservative number, right? Slightly under what he did last year. So he could get more, but that's kind of what when I was doing my projections, I was trying to be a bit conservative and trying to see how many goals that they would need to get to the total goals that they need. So I think 35 goals is very reasonable for Caulfield, and if they can get that from him, and you'll see it's each player, each position, we have an amount of goals that we need from them. So if we only need 35 from Caulfield to reach the objective, I think that's very doable.
Frank.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think the other thing that's going to be interesting for Caulfield is where he slots on the power play. For a chunk of the season last year, he was on the prime shooting spot on the left dot there. I think it's going to be Laine, at least at the very start of the season. That's a no-brainer in my opinion. And then on the second power play unit, I think Budzik has a very, very legitimate case there as well. So it'll be interesting to see where he slots in. But I think 35 goals is absolutely realistic for Caulfield there. So I'm with you.
72 point, Frank.
Yeah, that checks out. It's very similar to last year, if I'm not mistaken, Coach. I think he was around 35 and 70 or something like that.
Okay, Marko, you agree with that?
Yeah, I think it's definitely doable for sure.
All right. I'm going to give more goals for Caulfield and more points for Caulfield for upcoming. No surprise, he get 40 goals and 78 point to 80 point.
That would be nice, but again, like my focus is coaches. What do we need from him? What do we need from his position? Because again, so just so everybody understands, my projection is that Montreal needs somewhere around 263 goals overall from the entire team, right? So again, if you look at everything, and everybody has a certain amount of goals that they need to deliver for the team. So if he delivers more than 35, wonderful. But we only need 35 from him, according to my calculations. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, but my calculatrice is different. So
okay.
I need more goals for Caulfield.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Because later you're going to understand why I need more goals for Caulfield.
Okay. So we disagree later on how many goals we need from different positions. Okay.
Suzuki, 28 goals, and we talk about, I put him 85 points. I think I was a bit conservator about 85 points, Marko.
Yeah, well, I think this, like, I've been teasing this, like when we were talking with Jim about this, like, Jim was talking, hey, like Suzuki keeps going up and up and up and up. Maybe he can get 100 points. I'm like, I won't be surprised and I won't be mad either if either he plateaus or even drops a little bit from where he was, just because they're going to be focused on playing a more well-rounded game. And also one thing, guys, like if Dvorak, now that Dvorak's not there, if Suzuki is going to be taking more D zone faceoffs, it could affect his offensive output as well. He might get more defensive zone starts, things like that. But I think, again, if all we need from him is 28 goals, if he gets that 85, even a little bit less than that, I think we're fine. Yeah, I think, he scored 30 goals last year. I think he's over 30 goals the last couple of seasons. So, if he gets more, wonderful. But in terms of what we need from them, in terms of what we need from the first line, I think we'll be fine there.
I think it's too conservative for me. I think in terms of goals, we're going to be in that range, in the 30 goals range. But I think he gets closer to 100 points. The reason being the power play now is with Demidov. I think it's going to be also a full season of Laine. It's going to be year 2 of Lane Hudson. And I think Slafkovsky this year is going to be a better player at 5-on-5, not only on the power play as the front of the net guy, but also as a top line winger that's going to crack a couple more goals this year. So I'll stick with the 30 goals or 28 range ish, but I'm going to be expecting that if things play out correctly, we're going to be looking at closer to 100 points.
Like someone said, I don't know if it's Mark or someone else said, like Suzuki never, every year he increasing his number to point. So he's been to that way for the last 5 years. So we'll see what happening to him. But I think he's reasonable. I think a little bit more number to goal for him. But that's what Marco said. That's what we need to get there. Finally, we have another one here. Sakaski, 25. I put 57 point, Marco.
Yeah, again, it's hard to predict assist, right? Because you have first and second assists and things like that. So I didn't even really think about points. I'm just thinking about the goals that you need to get from each line. But yeah, I think Slav could definitely get to 25 goals, like just another incremental improvement. We know he's been working on his conditioning a little bit lighter. Hopefully we'll get around the ice with a little bit more energy this year. Hopefully he's been working on his release. Like we know he has an amazing shot, but just the quickness of his release is what really needs to improve. But hopefully if he's skating faster, is more mobile, then he'll be around the net a little bit more. So I think 25 goals, that's what we need. So if we get this amount of goals, guys, like I said, it gives us a total of 88 goals for our first line, then we're in really good shape. So again, if they exceed these, then it's even better, right? But this is the minimum I think that we need to get from this line in order for the rest of the lineup to work.
So this is where I'm a bit more bullish. So I think Slafkovsky is going to crack 30 goals this year. I think he's going to be around, so maybe 30, 31, that range kind of deal. The total points is probably going to be around that, so maybe like 60, because I don't know that he's going to be putting a lot of assists. But I just anticipate that Montreal is going to get a crazy power play this year and more power play opportunities with the addition of guys who are going to be tougher to handle in Bolduc and Demidov and Dobson. So I think they're going to draw more penalties, be on the power play more often. Slafkovsky is going to be the guy that's going to be in front of the net, picking up some loose change. Like it's not going to be a highlight reel goal, but I think it's going to be more like right in front of the net in the crease kind of goals that we're going to see, like a few more of those and a few more 5-on-5 as well. So
question for you, Frank. But
take.
So you were saying that Laine is going to be on the first PP, right? So who comes off? Like, is it like, wouldn't Slafkovsky have to come off if Demidov is going to be on that first unit?
So if Demidov's on the right side,
yeah,
Suzuki's in the middle.
Yeah,
Laine's
going to be in the
wing.
bumper. Laine's on the left side. Caulfield's on the bumper, and then Hudson's at the point, right?
I think Slafkovsky's front of net, and Caulfield is bumped to second unit.
Oh, not a chance. Not a chance.
I think so. I think about it, because then your second unit has Dobson, Caulfield, and Bolduc.
Yeah, I get it, but I would be shocked if they were to remove Caulfield from their first PP unit. I think it's more likely. I think Slafkovsky has yet to really. I think it feels a little bit panicky on the power play. Like I think it's going to be really good to get him off the right wing wall, because I don't think he makes really good decisions with the puck on the wall. So I think definitely he needs to get down as a net front presence. But we'll see. Like if again, we're not here to predict. We don't know what St. Louis is going to do. We don't know how it's going to play out. But if Slafkovsky, all I'm saying is that these numbers will be affected if he's on the first unit power play or not, right? So we'll see how it plays out. But yeah,
You know what? I could be wrong here, but I think Martinson would try to balance and a little bit like Frank, but I think Demidov and Laine will be on the second unit together.
it's possible. I would be surprised though, like that first unit power play in the playoffs, coach, with Demidov, when Laine wasn't there, it was cooking. Like I think everybody was super excited to see what Demidov was doing with Hudson. It's that combination, right? They want Hudson and Demidov on the ice together, So I'll be surprised if they don't do that.
You have nobody. If you remove Sakeski, you have nobody in front of the net, Marco.
Yeah, like then yeah, because it's just part of like it depends how you play, right? Like at the end of the day, like anybody can go in front of the net. Like it's about being combative. I don't necessarily
not everybody go in front of the net, Marco.
No, I get it, but everybody has to be able to be willing to pay the price. Caulfield, actually, believe it or not, like he's not going to screen the goalie, but Caulfield, you'd think you don't know this, but he scores a lot of his goals in front of the net, right? Like really quick kind of releases off rebounds and stuff like that. So when people think in front of the net, they think somebody that's going to screen the goalie and stuff like that, right? But it doesn't necessarily need to be that. I get it. Like it makes sense to have Slav, but if you're going to have Slafkovsky there, then I think it's going to be Laine that gets moved to the second unit, not Demidov. We'll see.
All right, let's move on to second line, guys. Again, this is not confirmed. It just will give us, you guys, the exercise, the purpose of the exercise tonight. So let's start with Demidov. Marco go with 18 goals, and I put really reasonable 55 points. We're going to start with Frank on that second line, Marco.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna be a bit more bullish on Demidov. I think he's gonna crack 20. I think it's gonna be maybe close to 25. I have a feeling he's gonna be that impactful as a rookie. In my opinion, probably somewhere around 25 goals, 60 points, maybe 65, because he's also a very good playmaker. So I'm bullish. I'm aware, but I think if you're in the Calder race, it's because you can put the points. Like Lane Hudson had 65, 66 points last year for the Calder as a defenseman. So I would hope he's around that range. So the 65 points, 20, closer to 25 goals.
Yeah, like I said, guys, like this is part of a bigger puzzle, right? So if he gets more than this, great. But I was a bit more conservative with Demidov, just for the record. So my second line, my calculations, Montreal needs to get 50 goals. So in the first line, we said 88 goals is what we need to get. We need 50 goals from the second line, right? So I have a different second line than this, right? But ultimately, if I do have Demidov on the second line. The only difference I have here is Budzuk instead of Laine. But and I have Demidov on the right side because I think he's going to play right wing, not left wing. But yeah, I think 55 points is more than doable for him. Like he's again, it's going to really depend on which power play unit that he starts. Right, if he starts on the second unit, it might be a little less than this, right? But if he's on the first unit, then I wouldn't be ashamed or too scared to say he might get closer to 60 points and maybe over 20 goals. But we need at least 18 goals from him. It's kind of like Moneyball. Like if anybody has seen the movie Moneyball, you're trying to understand how many goals you need per position. So I'm hoping we can get at least 18 goals from Demidov, and then we should be good.
Next one, Kirby Dach, 16 and 37 points.
again, assuming he's healthy, I think he's more than capable of getting 16 goals. Even with Colt, do we remember how many goals he finished with last year, Coach? Like, I think he was around 8 or something like that. And he had a really tough start, right?
10.
So I don't know.
At
He
22
had 10
last year.
Yeah.
10.
So I don't know how many goals. He had 10 goals. So I think if he's healthy and kind of like a little bit better on track, I think again, like, and this is the point that I was saying earlier, Frank, we don't necessarily need our second line center to be like a 60-point guy. The math still works. If you can get 16 goals, 40 to 50 points from him, then it all checks out. It's more, Montreal is more of a balanced team, and you'll see like the goal totals for each line are like from here, like from the second line, it's like 50 goals, 45 goals, and 35 goals. It's all within kind of a close range, what you're going to be getting. So I think if Montreal gets 16 goals out of him, up to 40 points, then I think that's a good production for Dach this season, I think.
Yeah, I'll be as conservative as you. I think there's a very real possibility that these numbers are blown out of the water because of the quality of the line mates, and because I do believe a healthy Kirby Dach is the net front presence of your second power play unit, which is going to run a lot. Like, there's a lot of firepower to spread the riches. So if your second power play is Bolduc, Caulfield, with Dobson shooting bombs, and then Dach only has to put in the rebounds, I think there's a path for him to be successful. Obviously, it all hinges on his health and conditioning, so we'll see. But I think it's very conservative. I'll stick to those numbers as well. But I really wouldn't be surprised if it's if this is done by December.
Don't forget tomorrow night, Jim Beringer will be with us at 8:30 p.m. Talking about the NHL, and he just texted me. He said Caulfield for the goal. He's watching us gather way, so we say hi to Jim. By the way, Marko, you're right about this. For the number, the point, whatever is the second center example, right? I did an exercise a couple of weeks ago. If you have 40 to 40 your second center at 40 to 50 point minimum, that would give a probability of 65% to make the playoff. And he add more the probability, and when they get 50, 60 plus, usually your team is in the playoffs. So I just want to mention for what you said about that. I think you're right. Finally, Laine, 25 goals, 53 points for Patrick Laine.
Yeah, again, so I'm projecting, I'm seeing that we need 58 goals on our second line. I do think like this is again pretty conservative. I'm more than confident Laine, if he stays healthy, he can score 25 goals. If he's on the first unit power play, maybe even a bit more. We've seen the kind of summer. I saw some people mention in the chat that it's a contract year for Laine. Last year, we know that he didn't really train all summer. Then he obviously had the terrible knee injury. So I'm expecting a good season from Patrick Laine. And he really looks like mentally in the right place and really committed. We saw the interview with Kent Hughes, gave Eric Engels talking about he had some really big discussions with him, trying to get his mindset ready to play a more well-rounded game. So I have high hopes for Laine this year. But again, if we can get 25 goals from him, then that puts us on track. I think he's more than capable of getting us that, maybe even more if he's on the first unit.
Frank?
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm going to be a wee bit more bullish here. I'll say 30 goals. I think the number of points is probably fine. Might even be less because there's not much passing going on with him so far. But yeah, I think he's had 15 goals, 15 power play goals in about 50 games last year. So give or take, he should be able to crack 20 power play goals, being the top guy on the power play. And then, the 10 extra goals throughout a whole season at 5-on-5, I think is fairly realistic. So I'm going to be a little bit more bullish on the number of goals there. I'll say 30.
Yeah, nobody go have to be 30 for me for Laine. for the upcoming season. Would be how he's going to act here for sure. Um, let's move on for the third line, if you don't mind. And we're going to go right here. Anderson, Evan, and Gallagher together. Like I said, it could be changed for that one. And I start with Anderson. And we have 14 goals and 32 assists point for Anderson, Marco.
Yeah, so my third line is a bit different. I have Evans with Newhook and Laine. But again, the amount of goals we're using the amount of goals that I projected here, so it doesn't really matter. So I have 14 goals for Anderson. I think it's doable for him. I think the third and fourth line are going to play almost the same amount of minutes, depending on the time of game. Like it's not going to be a situation where Montreal's fourth line plays like 8 minutes a game. We don't have like a Pizzetta, that's going to play 3 shifts or something like that. A lot more balance, a lot more depth in this year's lineup with Dach coming in and stuff like that. So I think Anderson still has the ability to pot in, 14 goals for sure. And I don't know about 32 points. That's a lot of assists for somebody who's not going to be on the power play. So I find it so hard to predict points because you don't know if there's going to be 2 assists or 1 assist. So I just focus on the goals, but we need at least in that range 14 goals from Anderson, and I think we'll be in good shape.
I'm gonna be a little bit more conservative here. I think it's gonna be probably closer to 10 and probably closer to 20 points, 25 points, something like that. I don't know that Anderson's going to be a big contributor offensively. I look at this line and I think it's going to be most of the ice time for Anderson is going to be PK and probably fourth line duty. Like I think this pairing of wingers is probably going to see, Anderson. If you look at the left wingers, I think he's your fourth left winger. I think Bolduc, Laine, and Caulfield are going to see more ice time than him at 5-on-5. So I doubt that he gets as many points as last year, let alone the number of goals that he had. So yeah, I'm going to be a little more conservative here. I'll probably say 10 goals.
How many goals did Anderson have last year, guys?
He had
12,
15.
maybe?
15. 15 goals, 12 assists.
Yeah, I don't see his role changing. I think he'll have roughly the same amount of minutes as he did last year. It's not like he played top 6 last year. I think the third and fourth line are going to play roughly the same amount of time. So, if we're a couple goals off here, but if we, it could be anywhere 10 to 14, I think we'll be fine, but I don't think his minutes are going to shrink that much.
Next one, Jake Evans, and 30 points for Evans, did 36 last season with 13 goals.
Yeah, so 13 goals last year, so I think he'll regress a little bit, but that's fine. I think his shooting percentage was El Fuego for about a month and a half or something, and it just happened to happen during when he was renegotiating his contract, which is amazing timing for him. But I think we'll see a bit of a regression. But again, your third line center, or fourth line, depending on how you look at it, if you get 9 goals from Jake Evans, I think you're happy. I don't know about the points, but it's still going to play a huge role with the team. Maybe 9 out of those goals, maybe 2 or 3 of them will be shorthanded, hopefully. So 9 goals, I think I'd be happy with what we get from Jake Evans.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Yep. Gallagher, 21 goals last year.
I don't see that this year.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I don't see 13 goals for Gallagher this year. I don't think so. Sorry, 21 goals. 21 goals. I don't 21. See. I don't see that happening this year. I don't know if you have the numbers, Coach, but I have 13 for Gallagher this year.
There you go. I was in the wrong place. I apologize.
That's okay. Yeah, so I've got 13 for Gallagher. I don't know about the total amount of points. I don't think it will be 30 points, but a little bit of a dip. But again, he won't get any power play time. It's just there's too much depth unless there's injuries, or unless somebody really shits the bed on that second unit power play. And I don't think Gallagher is going to get too much shorthanded time, so he just doesn't have the wheels to be effective, I don't think, on the PK. So he's going to be Mr. 5-on-5. I do predict probably all 13 of these goals will be 5-on-5. So he might be in the top 5 of Montreal's scoring 5-on-5, but I don't see him getting more than 13 or 15 goals.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. And again, like I think, it would be surprising to me to see Anderson and Gallagher get a lot of ice time, as much as ice time as last year. I think they're going to be rolling a bit more, like I said, with the guys like like Bolduc, who's coming in. I think Newhook, we haven't seen in your lineup there. I think he's going to get more ice time than these guys. So and you probably have him as a winger, and Villeno at the center. So it sounds to me like they're going to be like the fourth line. I understand that there's going to be nights they're going to play more than the other lines, etc. But yeah, I really don't see these guys playing as much as they did last year. I think they're going to see a little bit of a dip.
Great point about that. We'll move on for this one. There we go. Bolduc, Villeno, Newhook. 24 goals,
so I really
43 points.
Yeah, so I really disagree with this fourth line. Like, I don't think Bolduc or Newhook are going to play on the fourth line. But anyways, we're not going to debate the lines. We're just looking at how much production we think they'll get. If Bolduc does play on the fourth line, there's no way he's going to get 24 goals. But I think he's going to be on the second line with Dach and with Demidov. But either way, I do have Bolduc. He finished with 19 goals last year, coach, and very limited minutes, like playing under, I think it was somewhere around 13 minutes a game with St. Louis. So with a bigger role here on the second unit power play, I can definitely see him going up to maybe 24 goals over a whole season, just being hyped playing in Montreal. So I definitely see him getting very close to the 25 goal range. And again, like if I'm trying to get Montreal to a total of 263 goals, so it's going to give Montreal 6 25 plus goal scorers, 6 20 plus goal scorers in their lineup, which is really, really good depth. So hoping that we can pencil Mr. Bolduc for 24 goals for this upcoming season. I think he can do it, though.
Yeah, I like it, Marco. I will say, I think you're right. I think, at the end of the season, Bolduc would have spent more time on the second line than Laine. I do believe they will give Laine the spot at the start of the season. It'll be his job to lose. So he might be more of a third line guy at first. But yeah, I think once we are 10 or 15 games in and Laine, if he isn't producing much or doing much or just being helpful at 5-on-5, I think we're going to see the switch happen. So I'm with you. I think
it all depends on the approach St. Louis wants to take, right? Like the reason I have Laine on the third line is for balance, right? Like rather than having Demidov, Dach, and Laine all together, like that just scares me as a defensively for that line. So having Laine play with Newhook and Evans, it's a lot. Like I think they're going to move the puck up the ice really well. It'll maybe be it'll rub off on Laine in terms of defensive responsibilities. So I just like a more balanced lineup.
Who is going to fit Laine?
Newhook and Evans are capable.
Have no
so I like that line. I think he has good hockey IQ. He just doesn't have finishing, right? But I think Evans can be a decent playmaker. I think Newhook can also kind of like go dig out the puck. So I think again, it's not your first line, right? But I think you have enough chemistry there potentially to make it work. I don't think you necessarily like Laine doesn't need a playmaker. He's not just a sniper. He can create his own shots. He's also actually a very good playmaker himself. So I don't think he's somebody that necessarily needs a playmaker to score goals. And again, we don't need him to score, according to my lineup anyways, we don't need 30-something goals from Laine. We need 25 goals. We need him
Why?
to
Is
be
your best sniper? What you try to do right now, you try to put one of your best sniper and disadvantage him to go back down and not use him for what is good for the Montreal Canadiens. That's
well
me.
because
I don't get
well
it.
because
Like it's like you put him on the way where he cannot give you his best tools for the Montreal
well, there's a
Canadiens.
reason they call this sport hockey and not goal scoring. Goal scoring is not the only part of hockey, coach. Like there's a lot of other parts of the game. So Line, yes, that's like he's going to use that skill, I think, on the power play, and he's not playing with terrible players. He'd be playing with Evans and Newhook. I like, again, it's not just about getting the most goals out of your players. It's about getting a total team concept, having four lines because we know, especially with the amount of back-to-back games that Montreal is going to play this year, coach, you don't want to overtax. You don't want Suzuki, the first line, playing 25 minutes, and things like that. You want to, as much as possible, roll your four lines. Listen, I know I'm in the minority of thinking this, right? But I we'll see how it plays out. But in terms of how many goals we need from Line A, we just need 25. So that's what my calculations say. So I don't see him necessarily playing in the top six just because it's all the eggs in one basket with Dach and Demidov, right? And I see some people saying in the chat that it's like he's wasted, but guys, like he's still gonna, like, the difference between time of ice will maybe be like 1.5 to 2 minutes on the ice. Like it's not like we have to stop thinking of like mid 90s where your third and fourth line only played like 11, 12 minutes. Like I would be very surprised if there's that big of a difference in ice time between all these lines, but I could be wrong.
I agree. Yeah, I agree. And coach, I will add too, like, I think, like I said, like Line A's goals are going to come from the power play. I think he's the first power play guy. And last year, 75% of his goals were on the power play. I think it's going to be a very similar ratio. So his production at 5-on-5, I don't know that it's going to be super important in the grand scheme of things.
These are great.
We'll see. That's the fun.
I think it's going to be his job to lose, and I hope he doesn't lose it and he has like a revival. It would be the best thing for Montreal because he was legit like a few years back before he got injured. He was a top scorer in this league, not only on the power play, but I think it will be his job to lose. Whether he loses it or not is entirely up to him.
All right.
But you guys are comfortable going in. So you're comfortable rolling a second line of Dach, Demidov, and Line A together. You don't think they're gonna get dominated defensively? You're not concerned about that?
Demidov is very responsible.
Okay, we'll see.
I
don't
don't like it, but I wouldn't be surprised if Newhook is the second line center to start things off.
Yeah.
I don't like it, but we don't like the center line. We said it before. It's an issue.
Yeah. Anyways, it's a whole other debate, guys. Like we weren't going to get into debating which lines, right? But in terms of, let's kind of shift back to how many goals we need, right? That's kind of what our focus is. So for Veleno, under the concept that we want 263 goals. So for the fourth line, very similar to Jake Evans. If him and Jake Evans can squeak out 8 to 9 goals each as your bottom six, centerman, then I think you're good. So, I don't know how many points he'll get. And who knows, guys, we've been talking about second line center, dark horse, if let's say Dach really can't do it, do they try Veleno as the second line center? That's not out of the question either, that they would give him a shot there as a left-handed shot as well. But, in terms of what we need for offensive production, 8 goals from Joe Veleno, and we'll be happy with that.
One more thing, Frank, before. We said Veleno, Marco, but it could be Veleno plus Kapanen, example, or it could be Veleno plus another one. Does it make sense? Like 8 for that one. Yeah.
They tried last year. They tried Kapanen for a bit. They tried Beck for a bit. Like it was very short stints because they're still very young. But if one of them shows up to camp and they're undeniable, who knows? I doubt it's going to happen, but It's not impossible.
It's just it's the left shot thing, right? Like I don't doubt that Beck like it's that's kind of like a round peg in a square hole. Like where like you just need a left-handed center to take faceoffs. I know I keep repeating that, but you just can't underestimate the importance of it.
Yep.
Good point. Next one. Newhook 16 goal, and I put him 33 point.
Yeah. So again, to get to our magical number that we need for goals for, would love to see 16 goals from our third line left winger, whoever that's going to be. So I think that's where he's going to play. But regardless of where he plays, if he can get 16 goals for us, I think it's more than doable. If he has a little bit more finish, his shooting percentage was really, really bad last year. So I think he's capable of doing that. I don't think he's a 20 goal scorer, but I think he can be, up slightly above a 15 goal scorer. We should be good there, I think.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's very on par with what we had last year, which was around 15 goals as well. What I will say is, and that's also part of the reason why I think it could make sense for him to start on the second line. And I've said this on the pod before, but Newhook is a centerman that plays like a winger, and Demidov is a winger that plays like a center. So if they can find chemistry, if they can find a way to understand how each other plays, they could be very, very well suited for each other. I'm not a big fan of Newhook. I've said this numerous times, but I think a winger like Demidov could really bring out the best of him, and he could play well with a guy like Demidov. So I like the 15, 16 goal range. I think it's very realistic considering this is what he's done last year. But I think the points total that coach has added would be like a tripling or a doubling of his assists. I think that could be contributed to playing with Demidov, for example. So I don't know that these are going to be the lines, but I could envision a scenario where these mesh together.
The only issue I have with Demidov playing with Newhook and Line or whoever is who's going to go in the corners to get the puck, Frank. Like Newhook can be combative, right? That's why I really like Budzik with Demidov and Dach, because then you have two guys like Dach can go dig the puck out for sure, and we know Budzik can be pretty physical. But yeah, we'll see. Like the only thing I like, we saw a little bit of chemistry between Newhook and Demidov in his first game against when he set up Newhook for his first goal, his first point. But again, we'll see, right? Like St. Louis going to have some tough decisions here. But we'll see kind of how they line everything up here. But so there you go, guys. We've covered. Okay, so now we have a good sense of how many goals we need to get from the forward group. The next step, Coach, I think we have is how many goals we get from the
defenseman right now.
Yeah, the defense, right? So again, the objective, guys, as Coach is pulling this up. So remember I mentioned that Montreal, in order to be in the mix here and be competitive, they need to get 263 overall goals. If they get that 263 goals, that would make them somewhere in the top 10-ish for goals for. That would put them at roughly about 3.2 goals per game. So far, we've seen kind of what we're getting from the forward group. Coach, let's take a look at what we're going to get from our defensemen. So for Mike Matheson, what did we have, Coach? We have 6 goals. I think more than doable for Mike Matheson to get 6 goals. I think we'd all agree with that. He's going to have a little bit less time, on the power play, maybe on the second unit power play with Dobson sometimes. But we need 6 goals from him, 5 from goalie. I think he's more than capable of doing that. We've seen, and then we know Hudson's been working on a shot. Hopefully he can increase his goal production. But again, I'm not saying Hudson will only get 4 goals. I'm saying that we only need 4 goals from him. If he gets more, wonderful. But we only need 4 goals from Late Hudson. We have his points down a little bit. Maybe he's focusing a little bit more on his two-way play. So before we get into the other defensemen, Frank, do you feel these numbers are reasonable? Like, I think these are more than manageable even probably pretty conservative, right?
I think these are bang on the numbers that they had last year, if I'm not mistaken. So you're very, very close to last year. So maybe a slight improvement by a goal here and there. But ultimately, these three guys are not going to be the guys you're going to be looking at for goals. So let's keep it there. I like it.
Okay.
Good.
Next group, coach.
Yep. His defenseman.
So next group, we're going to have Dobson at 12 goals. So he's going to, be our leading goal scorer from the back end. I think 12 goals is, better than he did last year. Not as high as he's maybe done in the past, but I think on the second unit power play with a really talented group to play with in the top six with Montreal, I think it's more than reasonable that he can get you 12 goals. Jack Guy chipping in with a couple goals. And we've seen what Carey can do. Like he does have like a nice little wrist shot, good seeing eye shots from the point. So he could easily exceed 3 goals again, guys. But so I think it's very like now that we've seen all of it, Frank. So we've seen is there like I don't think there's like we might have disagreed by 1 or 2 goals here and there for certain guys like Anderson. You had it like 12 instead of 14 and things like that. But basically, like now that like it's a good exercise to go through because what it shows you is that if you get this level of production from everybody, and if this is what we get, then it gets us that 263 goals that I keep talking about. And that could potentially put you like near the top 10 in the league for goals for. So
Last year,
I think it's looking good.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, Marco. And last year, the league average for goals for was 247.
Yeah.
Montreal Canadiens made the playoffs last year with 243 while having a not so great goal against stats line.
And
So
we're gonna get into goals against in a minute, I think, right? But so for goals for, you're right, like a little bit under average. We're gonna talk about the power play,
so
the power
by
play.
your calculation, this is roughly 20 extra goals that you score throughout the season. And I'll go further. Last year they lost 11 times in OT. So add those 20 goals. This is 5 or 6 games easy that you don't lose in OT or you don't lose in regular time. So you're clearly in the playoffs then.
Yeah. So goaltending. So I think I'm not a huge fan of goals against average anymore as a statistic. I think it's not, or even more goals against average, even save percentage. I'm not a huge fan of, to be honest. I really look at goal saves saved above expected. So what I'm going to be looking for, coach, as a statistic is if Monty can stay in that top 5, top 6, which he finished last year. He finished, I think, number 4 in the NHL for goal saves above expected in the NHL. If he can stay in that range, and if Dobej can be like top 15 for goal saves against, then I think we're gonna be good. So if you can have both, like we know that the save percentage 900 is now very good, right? Like before, like if you were under 900,
average,
it was like I think like the save percentage all across the league it's went down. Like even Vasilevsky, it was like 905 or something like that. So it's overall you're seeing the numbers come down a little bit. So I think if both Montreal goalies can be over 900, both goalies, it's going to be Dobej and Montembeault most likely. If they can be in the top 10 for goal saves above expected, then I think we'll be fine in terms of goaltending. What do you think, Frank?
Yeah. Last year, I don't have the same numbers here, but last year it's right when I'm looking at it says that they were at 890 in total and save percentage, but the league average was also 893. So you're right. If we get like closer to 900 goaltending, which isn't crazy, like it's a very achievable feels like number with a healthy Montembeault. And especially if Dobej can take a couple extra games, so Montembeault can be a bit more rested. Yeah, I think it's absolutely realistic.
Nice.
And again, puts you in a better in a better than the league average position.
Goal for, goal again, a goal differential.
Yep. So I've been referring to that a little bit. So let's talk about the goals against. So Montreal, definitely this is where they struggled last year, was goals against. So if they can be somewhere around that 245, that would be 2.98 goals per game. That would bring them to in the top 15 in the NHL. So kind of the way that I'm looking at it is, if they can finish, if 263 goals for gets you somewhere in the top 10 in the NHL, if you don't need to be necessarily top 10 in both. It'd be great if you can. But again, guys, the point of this exercise is, what does Montreal need to do to make the playoffs, right? So we're kind of estimate what is the minimum standard they should be hitting on some key things for them to be competitive. So I think it's important for them to get that 263. If they can stay around 245 and be in that top 15 for goals against, that gives them, a better goal differential, plus 18. That plus 18 puts you right in that top 15 around the NHL, which I think would be very good. And that's, I think, going to be the trickiest part. I think Montreal is going to be fun to watch, lots of exciting players, but can they keep the puck out of their own net, guys? Can they stay on brand, stay on the system? We knew that was the really, really tough thing. Frank, you'll remember last season in October and early November, they had the most goals against in the entire NHL. They were literally last in the NHL for goals against, getting blown out several times, 7-2, 9-3, things like that. So how important do you think goals against is going to be this season? And do you have confidence that Montreal is going to be able to improve on that front?
I think they can improve for a number of reasons, but I think it's not going to be as marginal as you have established here. So last year they were 261 goals against, and the league average was 247. I think they're still going to be somewhere between that 245 and 261. I think they're going to improve, but I don't know that they're going to make that big a leap. Part of it is because the center line is not as strong as we've established. And part of it too is, I don't think that they've improved that massively on the back end. Yes, obviously Dobson is a better player than David Savard. Like, there's no question here. But I don't know that defensively the delta is going to be enough to warrant like 20 goals saved on its own, right? and to offshoot the fact that the center line has been depleted a little bit. So I think
just to kind of let's spar on that one, on just that thought for a sec, Frank. So yeah, to me, like goals against is less about personnel, but about style of play, right? And the players buying in to the system they want to play, right? So if you saw kind of like some of the conversation, and stuff that we're learning through seeing the rebuild documentary and stuff like that, the team seemed to really buy into the team concept way more towards the end of the season, right? So, and the reason that I don't like goals or the save percentage as a statistic for goaltending is that it doesn't take into account the high scoring danger, like the high danger scoring chances and like cross crease passes and things like that, right? So if the team is, personnel is obviously important, right? But to me, it's more how the team is going to play together and they can understand the system and everything else, right? So if they are going to bring the goals down, I get it, not having Dvorak to take key face-offs and things like that is going to be an issue. But overall, I think it's more important about if they're going to all be on the same page in terms of how they play in their own zone. You know what I mean?
I agree. I fully agree with this, but ultimately, some guys who a lot of your production hinges on, guys like Dobson and Bolduc, are new guys. So they might need some time to acclimate. So that's part of the team concept. Ultimately, as many players can buy into the system, that's great, but there are still going to be weak points that can be costly. And Veleno, same thing. There's a couple of newcomers that might take some time and might be the weakest links in some nights. So I don't disagree with you. Ultimately, I think you're bang on. I think there will be improvement, and I think this Habs edition is going to be the best that we've seen in 5 years. So it's going to be fun to watch. But I think as far as goal against, I think there might be a little bit of a steep step to go from 261 to 245 in the snap of half.
Yeah.
Sort
what do you think?
One off season?
Yeah. So it is a pretty big jump. And coach, I'm curious to see what you think here too. What is the minimum goal differential do you think that Montreal will need to make the playoffs? Like, we know that they were one of the rare teams to be in the minus last year. What's the number that you think is the bare minimum you think they'll need to get in this year?
I think a minimum is plus 10, and I would like to get plus 18.
Yeah.
I think I could be off a little bit, Frank, but I think if you look around, plus 10 is pretty good number, at least for the wild card, right? That's where. But that would be one day. I feel a bit more like Frank on that one, because when you look about this, like I said, it's the number of Frank. It's an increasing of 20 goal plus and a decreasing of 20 goal less.
Yeah.
I could be off by 1 goal or 2 goals. And
what I'm saying, guys, is that, so again, I'm not predicting that they will get 245 goals against, but if we want them to make the playoffs,
That's
what
if
they're going to allow more. If they're going to allow more than 245, then they need to score more than 263 in order to keep that goal differential in the right place, right? So there's got to be
not really. There. Well, not really, because last year they've allowed much more than 245 and scored less than 263, and then they made the playoffs. But
I wouldn't bet on that happening again, Frank. I wouldn't bet on that happening again. Like, it's.
I understand, of course, I understand, but I think a plus 10 is probably closer to where they're going to be. So I will be a little bit more. I like the goals for. I think we did the math. I think it looks great. The goals against, I would be just a little bit more conservative, probably in the 250 something. So maybe like a plus 10 differential. So 253, let's say. So you have a plus 10 differential is probably where I think it might be.
I think plus 10, if I'm not, I remember I looked into it this morning. If they have a goal differential of plus 10, that gets them around 16th in the NHL. So they're going to be a bubble team.
15, 16, yeah.
Which to be fair, I think is a fair assessment of where they might be. I don't know that this team is a juggernaut yet. I don't know that they're a contender yet. I think there's still some issues with the roster as we look at it currently. We've said it, like the center line is not great, and there's not a lot of offense coming. As goals from the defensemen. There's Dobson who might put double digits, but lots of assists, but not a lot of goals coming from the back end. So that might factor into that.
You don't know. Yeah, exactly. Like again, like I said, like the point of this show is not to predict the future of what's going to happen, but what needs to happen. So if we want them to be in the playoffs, like having the goal differential around 16, it's going to be very iffy. If we want them to be a true, playoff team, I think we all agree, like, goal differential of around 18 gets them pretty comfortably in there.
I'm going to give you some number here, if you don't mind. Ottawa plus 9 last year, they make it. Montreal was minus 20 for what I see here. And then you have New Jersey make it at plus 20. They finished third. The Columbus guy was plus 5. They didn't make it. And the Rangers was plus 1. So honestly, you have to be a minimum plus 10 if you have a really better chance to make the playoff overall. That's a guarantee. But if you hit plus 15, 18, like you said, Marko and Frank, the chances are really high at that moment. If you hit that.
Yeah.
And one thing that maybe... Go ahead, Frank, Marko. Finish.
I was just gonna say, you look at the plus and minus. You look at the plus and minus, and it might be different depending on your division too, because we're playing Montreal is playing the toughest division where, 4 of the 5 Stanley Cup winners of the past years are in that division. Toronto's, might have taken a bit of a blow with Marner being gone, but ultimately they're still a solid team. So yeah, it's going to be a tough neighborhood. So plus 10 might not be that easy to get,
Yeah.
But
And
it might
all
be
I was
enough.
going to say, all I was going to say is that sometimes that differential can be a bit misleading. It's because, don't forget Montreal lost a whole bunch of, like, if let's say you lose the games you lose by 6 goals, like Montreal did in October, November. You're losing 8-2. That takes a big hit on your goal differential. But then, the rest of the games you're routinely winning 3-1, 2-1, 3-2, 4-2. But then when you lose 9-2. Then it screws with your goal differential a little bit. So it's not a perfect statistic, but I think it's a good bar to look at, right?
On the Western Conference, minus 11 for Minnesota. They was the only team make the playoff in a minus, and all other team make the playoff are plus 20 a plus.
Yeah,
That's a very interesting stat. You can compare that. And the reason I believe Minnesota make it because the defensive, it was really good. The goaltender have a really performance for that. I see possible for me when I look at your number tonight. Montreal could score more goal, but you can give a little bit more goal again, Marco, for your number you give to me tonight. Is it possible?
Yeah.
Like I see
I think
270
for sure.
example and maybe 253, 252 at 4
Sure.
on the, because I feel like Frank is a bit more. And when you look about the stat or the GSVA or the high danger chance, because I checked this also, it's not good news. At the end of the day, if Montreal have a really good top 3, top 4, it's maybe not a good news at the same time. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Good for
Yeah.
Montreal make the save, but it's not good because you gave a lot of goal opportunity to make it. If it's not guaranteed, it's going to do the same result this year.
Yeah. I get it. Like, again, we're not like, again, I wasn't trying to predict exactly what the output's going to be, but I think the one thing that we can see as an indicator is that they need to be a plus team, which,
Yeah.
so, 10 to 18 goal differential, whether they score a bit more or allow a bit less, either way, however they get there, I think that's going to be the critical thing. Last important piece, there are two other pieces we have, Coach, are specialty teams. And then one other one that I don't know if you have 5-on-5 here, but I'll talk about that a little bit.
No,
if you
I don't have
it
the
here.
5-on-5 honestly.
Okay, I'll talk about that after. But for specialty teams, so for power play last year, guys, I believe we finished somewhere around 19%, which was, I think, 21st.
It
in
was
the NHL.
20.2 or 0.1.
Yeah, but it was like 21st in the NHL, right? So, in order for the goals for to go up, like we're predicting, so 24% power play gets you in that top 10 in the NHL. So some people are even projecting Montreal could have a top 5 power play. We'll see, right? Again, we have a couple more years with a lot of these same players playing together, but you're adding a new element with Demidov. We'll see. Like, they could be above a top 10 team. If they are, wonderful. But we're looking for them to be at least a top 10 power play in the NHL, which means they need to be at least at a 24%. On the PK side, and I'll just go through this, Frank, and then I'll let you comment. On the PK last year, they were at 80%, a little 80 point something, and that was good enough for 11th in the NHL or 9th in the NHL, something like that. So with losing Dvorak, with losing Armia, maybe they take a little bit of a step back on the PK, but they can't afford to take too big of a step back. So and ultimately we know that one measure of success that you have when you basically want to add up your power play percentage and your PK percentage, and you want the total to be anywhere between 100 and 110%. So if they were to get this 24% and 79, that puts them, around like 104, 103 or something like that. I'm terrible at math, but they're in that range, right? So as long as they're 100%. So Frank, I don't know how you see the PP and the PK, but what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think the PP is going to be great. I think the personnel to be able to distribute the ice time on two waves that are going to be efficient, in my opinion. Like I said, I think they're going to distribute the forces. So I could see them being a top five. I'll be conservative. I'll say top 10, but I could really envision being top five because of the depth and also because um, they might not get the percentages, but because they might get more chances too. Like I'll explain myself, but ultimately I think there will be one of the team that draws the most penalties, so it will sort of affect their percentage, right? Um, but I think they're going to get a lot of penalties called for against that for them because of the depth that they have. Like the third wing, if you have by your makeup there, chief coach, you have Newhook on the fourth line. Sorry for the tongue swap there.
Chief.
You have Chief. Yeah,
I thought you were calling me Chief. Oh, that's a new one. Chief.
Hey, Chief. So if you have Newhook on your fourth line, that's a lot of speed for a fourth liner. That's going to draw a penalty. If you have Bolduc on a third line, you're going to cheat a little bit because you're maybe not well equipped to block his shots that are going to come a little bit faster than your regular third line guy, et cetera, et cetera. So I think they're going to be drawing a lot more penalties because of that. So I could, again, like I like the PP number. I think it might be around that range, but I think it will be more goals because they will get more opportunities than most of the teams,
Frank,
in my opinion.
just so you know, Frank, we mentioned this on the show. We were talking about this a couple weeks ago, but last year was a record low amount of penalties that were called in the NHL. Like by I forget the exact number, but literally 1,000 minutes less penalties called across the NHL. So for Montreal's sake, and it's been a topic of conversation all across the NHL. Why, is it because there's younger referees or whatever the case is? But they've been talking a lot about it around the NHL offices. So a lot of people are thinking maybe we'll see more penalty calls this year, but we'll have to see how it plays out. For Montreal, if their power play is clicking better, you hope that there's going to be more power plays, and that would help them with their objectives. Yeah.
Well, last year there were just one power play short of league average, so they were getting less power play opportunities than the average of the league. So I would expect this number to rise. Regardless of the amount that they end up getting, I think there will still be one of the teams that gets the most penalties called for them. So that might be helpful. For the PK, I will have to say I'm a little bit worried. I think it will dip. Might not dip like a full 5%, but David Savard is gone. Like you said, Dvorak is gone. Armia is gone. I'm not fully certain who takes the draws. And if you like you said very eloquently, you don't want to put Suzuki there the whole time, because every time he does that, he's not as productive on the offensive side of things. So you want to make sure he has enough juice to go on those extra power plays you're going to be getting. So, I think it will dip, unfortunately, a little bit there. So we'll see. I think the just over 100% stat line is good. So maybe it's 26 on the PP and 76 or whatever on the PK. But yeah, I think it's going to be just a hair over 100%.
Wait, I just want to mention like the power play jumping for 20 to 24 be very difficult. 4%. PK, you're right. It could be dropped, but this average around, I think Montreal had 47 goals last year, and the average is 48, if I can recall it. Frank, for the power play in NHL. Last year we did that.
So before we move,
go ahead.
Sorry, can we just before we move on to this, I just wanted to just mention 5-on-5 real quick, because I know PLW and we've talked about how important it's going to be 5-on-5. So we're talking about like one of the key things, and the whole point of this show, guys, is we're setting some guidelines, right? So throughout the year, we're going to continue and kind of look to see where's Montreal and see how they're performing on this. So 5-on-5. So we're saying about goal differential, right? And how important we want them to be around plus 18. So all the other than Montreal, all the playoff teams were at least plus 7 5-on-5. So if you're looking to see if they're going to be good if they're good enough 5-on-5, what we want to monitor for this season is their goal differential plus or minus 5-on-5. and what we would like to see them to be in that mix, to be comfortably in the playoffs. Not like, number one in the league here, but to be comfortably in the playoff race is to be at least +5, +7 goal differential 5-on-5 is what we would like to see. And I know PLW talks about this a lot. PLW, feel free to, if you're still on, let us know if you think that's a good measure. But 5-on-5, that's another huge element that Montreal needs to work on.
Frank, want to add something or?
I'm fully on board.
Yeah, definitely. It's good. It will start also with the Corsi at the end of the day, Marco. For that one, there, Montreal have to increase the Corsi. One thing, I know a lot of people talk about Noah Dobson, like defensively, he's not the biggest one, he's not the best, but he was one of the top 5 best defensemen last year at 5-5. And that could help in a Montreal Canadiens on that side of the game. So, like Marco said, for this one. This is the number, the point Montreal did in the last 5 seasons. It's 59, 55, 68, 76, and 91. Now we're looking for the standing for the Montreal Canadiens at the end of the year. So what we got here on this one, but I don't know if you have this. No, not this one. Last year we was wrong. on all 3 balls, on the 3 column right there, completely wrong, not close at all. If you have, and I'm going to put this my suggestion: 16, 8, and 4. So I would like to know, Marco, if it's reasonable or it's not, because the exercise to give what we need to get there to go there.
Yeah, so I think they're Montreal. I don't think they're gonna make it through and into the top 3 of the Atlantic Division. I think it's going to still be pretty hard. I know a lot of people are doubting Toronto, but I think they'll still be there. Florida, they don't have Kachuk, but they just know how to win. They're not going to win the Atlantic, but they're going to be there. They just know how to win. And then you have Tampa that also is still right there. So I think for them to make the playoffs, I think it's going to be similar to last year, Coach. I think it's going to be 5 teams from the Atlantic that make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference like last year. So yeah, I'm with you. I think. Sorry, are you saying that they're going to finish 8th in the Atlantic, or is this from last year?
No, I think there's confusion between Eastern and Atlantic. So 4th in the Atlantic and 8th in the Eastern.
Yeah,
I turned the number right here. Apologize.
Yeah. So that scared me for a second. I was like, whoa, that's flashback to drafting Demidov again or something there. But which wouldn't be terrible either. If there is one year, hey guys, we didn't mention this, right? But let's say everything goes wrong and Montreal gets another top 10 pick this year. It's not a terrible year for Montreal to take a step back either. I know it's not probably going to happen, but it wouldn't be terrible if they did either, right? Because it's a really good draft this year too. And Coach, we've gotten pretty good at managing seasons where we're looking ahead, but I don't think Montreal is going to be out of the playoff race or anything like that. But anyways, I'm just alternate reality. If that does happen, it won't be the worst thing in the world. But yeah, I think 4th in the Atlantic, I think is more than reasonable. It's going to be a dogfight again between them and Ottawa. I don't know, Frank, I think that's really what it comes down to, right? Ottawa versus Montreal for that 4th spot in the Atlantic. Do you see that happening too?
Yeah, I think so.
Do you think
one thing we want to produce next week, Marco, is your result of tonight? So it was too much to bring everybody, so we're going to get all the goal, everything like that. We're going to make a board about that, so that would be helping for everyone what happening there. And then the NRTAB did something like that last year, so I do the same thing, but it was too much to produce tonight. We have a few people knock the door tonight, by the way, and waited in 10:30, so it took about 1 hour to do that exercise. But again, this is not the prediction for each players. It's more about what it takes for all of them to make better chance for the Montreal to make to have a better year. That's what I can understand, Marco.
Exactly. Like I said, it's kind of like Moneyball, right? Like if if anybody's seen the movie Moneyball, you're kind of figuring out, okay, so how many goals, how many points do we need per each position? That's kind of the exercise that we did. And looking at it, final takeaway here, guys. I think for me, anyways, I'm very encouraged because I think Montreal has the personnel to hit the numbers that we think they need to hit. So I don't think we're saying like they need to kind of really, like, I think most of our estimates were pretty conservative too, right? So I don't see, like, just being completely objective, like not being complete like homers and Habs fans that are overestimating how much players are going to do. I think we had a very realistic analysis of what we can expect. And I was looking at the chat. Some people call me conservative Marco and everything else, but I'd rather be a bit conservative.
Call you caution. Last night.
Yeah.
Very caution. Marco is caution, everybody. He don't want to give us more positive. He wants to be sure we have to be. He's really, I think he's more caution. I think he wants Montreal to make it. He wants Montreal to be successful, but also he wants to be a little bit more like, that's going to be fun if he don't do well. So I cannot understand your point of view about that.
Yeah, I hate my expectations being shattered too, right? So it's just, I guess it's my nature to protect myself and be a little bit more conservative too, for sure. Frank, are you like that? Like, or do you like to kind of be more kind of like less conservative when you're getting your hopes up?
Yeah, I think I was a little bullish on a couple players where you weren't as willing to go there, but I try to stay a little tempered. For the past few years, I felt like I was the brutalist, the one that was always shutting down and saying like, no way, they're going to lose 4 in a row, like blah blah blah. But I gotta say, like, it's it feels like it's a different team. The only like crux of the season is contingent on 2 key core players not getting injured. Can you guess who they are?
I'll say
Nick
Suzuki.
Yeah. And I will said to you, 2 more. So, but I could be lucky if I get it, but it could be Samuel Montembeault or Kaden Coley, the second one.
No, I would say Suzuki. So for me, it's 3-2. I'm going to say Suzuki. I'm going to say Montembeault, and I'm going to say Hudson, or it'd be the 3 that you can't have injured.
So to me, it's Suzuki and Montembeault. I think if either Hudson or goalie get injured, they can share the load. Like Dobson gets a lot of PP time, gets more like the offensive time. If goalie is hurt, maybe they play a little bit more Carrier, a little bit more of a Dobson again, like etc. So, but yeah, I think if one of Suzuki or Montembeault is hurt, the season is a lot of.
The only thing I'll say, Frank, is we saw that Montreal can manage without goalie, with Struble came in and everything else. What was the biggest, and we had this debate, who was the real MVP of Montreal season? A lot of people will say Nick Suzuki, but to me, what really changed the complexion of the team last year is Lane Hudson. He brings it's not just the points, right? But it's the creativity, the vision that he has on the ice, the lanes that he opens up. I think maybe we forget what Montreal's look like before Lane Hudson, right? So I think if you lose Lane Hudson, yes, Dobson can get you points and he can be, a first power play, but it's just all the different dynamic elements that Hudson brings to the game that I think would be really problematic if Montreal didn't have it.
Yeah, I'm with you, but I'm curious to see what Dobson can do. So that one is a question mark, but I think he could be a game breaker. I mean, you don't hand out $9 million contracts to guys who don't believe.
Oh yeah, like for sure. I'm happy about Dobson, right? But Hudson is just like different, in terms of.
But it's funny when you think about this, because you did that. I said something like that, but that would help. That would go with Frank. With Hudson last year, Montreal Canadiens did only 9 more goals.
But again, coach.
But on the defensive, Montreal Canadiens gave 24 goals less last year. This is pretty amazing for me, those numbers about that. I think Hudson showed the dynamic of the Montreal Canadiens and the system they play. It was really different about Hudson for that one over there. But I think that for me was really Nick Zuski overall for that. Yeah, two teams last year, they lost their center. Barzell, terrible for the New York Islanders. The special team, 12.6 and 72.5. And the Devils with Jack Hughes. You can tell me, yes, Nico and everybody else. But that injury, the two key players, exactly like
100%.
Frank said, if you lose Zuski, guys, this is
Whoa.
over. It is what it is. But there's a reality behind that.
100%. Guys, what a great show. Like, Frank,
What
awesome
a great to start the season, Marco, on the Hump Day on your show.
First Hump Day, I think overall, just to tie in the whole theme here. So if you're looking at the rebuild, Coach, I saw your headline yesterday. The rebuild is over. I think I agree with you. Like, now we're still in that roster construction phase.
Yeah.
We're definitely past the asset collection phase. No more talk of trading assets at the deadline and all that. Like, no, now we're putting the pieces together. So if we're tying in this whole concept of the show, Montreal, so it's Wednesday, we're on Hump Day. Montreal's just right on the hump of their rebuild, right? They're just right there. They're just a little bit before the midway point. It's a magical time, guys, to be a Montreal Canadiens fan. So much to look forward to, even though I like to be conservative and everything. No question, this is the most anticipation and the most excitedness that we've had for a Montreal Canadiens season. So, Frank, we're looking forward to having you on Habs Hump Day several times this season. So we'll be in contact. I'd love to see you throughout the season. We'll continue to come back to our numbers here and see kind of how we did with our projections, and we'll have the opportunity to adjust them. So, really, really thankful that you could be with us. And Coach, I'll let you wrap it up.
Thanks so much, Marco. First of all, to be with us tonight, the first to work together. Then we'll have more guests going to come every Wednesday night. Tomorrow night we have Jim Beringer. But Frank, thanks to be with us. It was Marco. I think the last time we talked about this off show. Last time I think it was the beginning of July or at the end of June. Yeah. The last time we see Frank. So glad to see you, my friend. And maybe we pop up before the season starts, or maybe the week after that, or something like that at the beginning. Well, you're welcome to come anytime anyway.
Anytime.
And I will definitely back to you, Frank, for the other stuff we talk about this. So thanks, both of you. We finished the end of this one. I can wait to see you next Friday, next Wednesday, Marco. And we have something maybe special at the end of the month, Marco. I'm going to let you know. Thanks, Frank, about that one. Good night, both of you. A great job.
Thanks, boys. Merci, chef. Thanks, chief.
Thanks, chief.
He was Marko Larabie and, of course, Frank, both of them. Great job tonight. Don't forget tomorrow night, Jim Beringer is back in the house with his swinger. He's going to talk about everything. He's going to answer to your question. Jim, he become now a co-host of the new show every Monday night, the NHL show, and he's going to bring everything you need to know. Jim is fun. Jim is great to be with. And I can't wait to see him tomorrow night at 8:30 p.m. Friday night, we are back for another fun Friday night. Off Saturday, back again Sunday. We can't wait to see Mr. Nartap with us. It's a question. We feel it. I smell it. I smell in Nartap. He wants to come back right now. We have to be a little bit patient, but please don't forget to pray for him and for his family. But I can't wait to see Mr. Nartap in the house at the Hockey Nation show. Hopefully you enjoyed the show tonight. It was a pleasure to entertain you with Marco and, of course, with Mr. Frank. I can wish you tomorrow night. Until then, my friend, we wish you an amazing, great night. Middle of the week, short week, honestly, and beginning of September, the hockey is back. I think A2 wake me up tonight when he said, I'm excited for the upcoming season. I cannot remember the last time I was more excited where I am right now. Not only for the channel, but for the Montreal Canadiens. This is a time now we start to enjoy more, and you have to be ready for the upcoming season. I can't wait to see the Montreal Canadiens. That rookie camp next week. You have after that the showcase during the weekend. followed by the golf tournament, and then you have the main camp, 6 exhibition game qui go to carry on all the way to the beginning of October. It's just 36 days, I believe, before the season starts. So I can't wait to be in October for the first game. Until then, my friend, because of you, we want to thank all the super chat we got tonight. And Mr. Pizza was one of them tonight, if I can recall it. And Mr. Enartap, thank you again, Mr. Enartap. Very kind of you to do that at the Hockey Nation Show. And all of you been with us, moderator One Week Kings. A lot of great conversation. N26 deserved to be the first star of the night with all the comments he bring on the table tonight. Frankie was with us, by the way, W. Glad to see you around now more and more. Don't forget, guys, to click on the, not to click, but don't forget, guys, to join our Discord. If you want to also join the Hockey Fantasy and Hockey Nation, please let me know. Send me an email. We miss about 2 or 3 GM maximum, maybe one day one. But until tomorrow night, the only thing we know, you are the person we looking always. You are awesome. You are amazing. You are the best. And remember, you have greatness inside of you. I have a new day. Wake up every morning now at 4 o'clock a.m. It is what it is. But it's glad to be with us, with all of you. And can't wait to again to see you tomorrow night. Until then, my friend, be well, be well. Find a way not only dominate your day, but find a way to dominate the second half of what? Someone will say 2025. Have a great night, everybody. The Hockey Nation and the Ab Nation and all the jungle animal we have in Thailand. Want to tell you one more thing, sir. We love you, friends. Good night, everybody. See you tomorrow night. Mr. Cash Fan, always, we finish the show with always Mr. Cash Fan at the end with the last word of the show tonight. RJ Calabro News Update. Thanks so much for that one. I appreciate that. And I will see you tomorrow night, 8:30 p.m. Booyah! Good night, everybody.